When I was abandoned at the orphanage door, a line of bullet comments floated by. If only these little brats would rush up and shout, "Dad, immense wealth would be theirs, damn it, why can't I transmigrate in?" I really want to shout, "Dad." My eyes immediately lit up, and I waddled my short legs over, pouncing, "Dad, do you want a daughter or not?" After successfully being adopted, before I could even forget my roots, a barrage of comments popped up, sigh. The villain who loves but cannot have will ultimately not escape the fate of suicide, billions of assets thrown away just like that. What, those are all my inheritance? I threw a tantrum and rolled around, forcing him to pause his suicide attempt and come over to gently coax me to sleep. After several rounds of this, I skillfully pulled out a stack of pedophile photos and asked him, "Uncle, which one do you think would make a good new dad for me, eventually?" He not only stopped wanting to die but also wore himself out trying to raise me. I was left in a trash bin by the orphanage gate, just happened to encounter the villain Simon coming to the orphanage for charity. The gloomy yet handsome man stepped out of the car, surrounded by a crowd, rubbing my growling stomach from hunger. My eyes held no admiration for his looks, only a desperate longing for food. I watched the group of them walk into the orphanage. Suddenly, I heard a commotion erupt inside. Children's cries broke out like a spreading virus. As I was wondering what was happening, lines of floating text suddenly appeared before my eyes. I'm really fed up. To fit the villain's malicious persona that the author created, even children have to dislike him for no reason. Cry, 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 that's how good fortune is cried away. If only these little brats would rush up and call him, "Dad, immense wealth would be theirs, damn it, why can't I transmigrate in there?" I really want to call him, "Dad." My eyes instantly sparkled with gold. Who cares if they're the protagonist or the villain? Milk is mother, money is father. I immediately crawled out of the trash can, rushed to the orphanage gate and waited eagerly. Soon, the villain emerged with a scowl on his face, like a starving ghost on the verge of death. I rushed forward, clinging desperately to Simon's pant leg. With tear-filled eyes, I pleaded, "Daddy, do you want your daughter or not?" Everyone collectively gasped. I wouldn't give up, showering him with compliments. "Dad, you're so handsome. I can't even imagine how happy I'd be if you were my dad." Simon looked down, his brows slightly furrowed, seemingly at the pant leg I had scuffed. I awkwardly shrank into myself, looking utterly at a loss. The next moment, Simon suddenly grabbed my slender wrist. Bystanders cast mocking glances at me. Just when everyone thought he was about to push me away, Simon held me steadily. His eyes soft as he asked, "What did you just call me?" I declared loudly, "Daddy." A screen full of question marks appeared before my eyes. I don't remember this part in the original plot at all. Damn, she actually managed to call it. What a stroke of insane luck. Through the barrage of comments, I learned Simon was the real young master swapped by the mistress, left to fend for himself in an orphanage since childhood, at the age of 10, because the mistress's son needed a kidney transplant. He was brought back to the Taylor family as an illegitimate child. In the Taylor family, he was subjected to coldness and torment, which made his mind dark and malicious, and his methods cruel and vicious. On the day the truth was revealed, Mrs. Taylor couldn't accept that the person she had been tormenting so cruelly for years was her own biological son. She chose to feign madness rather than acknowledge him. He was abandoned and despised by everyone. And the female lead was the only person in the world who was kind to him. He saw her as his last hope, and for that, he relentlessly targeted the male lead. Ultimately, he ended up being despised by the female lead, and in despair, he committed suicide. Seeing this, I instinctively hugged my stiff yet burning chest. No, the powerful ally I just found absolutely cannot be lost just like that. I don't want to be thrown back into the trash can and sent to an orphanage. Just as Simon was about to put me down, my small hand immediately clutched his clothes, and I pleaded, crying, "Daddy, Daddy, take me home, don't leave me behind, I'll be good." Simon paused in his movements, his gloomy gaze faltering slightly. Simon's assistant looked at my filthy appearance and said nervously, "Let me carry her instead." I spoke the boldest words in the most timid tone, "Daddy is so handsome, can I have a hug from Daddy?" It wasn't until Simon carried me into the car that Assistant Jack finally snapped out of his daze. After placing me in the car, Simon immediately straightened up, took out his laptop, and began working. Only when Assistant Jack cautiously asked did he respond expressionlessly, "What are you standing around for? Go handle the adoption paperwork." Assistant Jack was almost dumbfounded. The bullet screen exploded. No way. He really adopted him. The villain isn't the type to suddenly become kind. Is he? If I remember correctly, the villain is a germaphobe. Not only is he not angry, but he's holding him tightly, as if afraid he'll break. Maybe he saw a reflection of his younger self in this child. But this little girl is good. She directly found herself the richest dad in the whole book. Damn it. How is this any different from open book reincarnation? I'm tired of saying I'm envious. I pray to be reincarnated like this in my next life. +1. I was brought back to Simon's empty mansion. As soon as he put me down, Simon vanished without a trace. After the nanny finished bathing me, she took me back to my room. I lay on the soft, spacious bed, not yet able to enjoy it. Suddenly, the barrage of comments erupted in frantic wails. Help, what's the villain doing with that knife? Oh, for goodness sake. That message telling you to die wasn't sent by the female lead. It was sent by the male lead's brother, I swear. That guy is such a troublemaker. Damn, no wonder the villain adopted a daughter 1 minute and then committed suicide due to depression the next. Sigh, the villain, unable to find love, ultimately couldn't escape the fate of suicide. Billions of dollars, just thrown away. I suddenly sprang up like a carp leaping out of water. How much? How much did you say? Damn it, that's all supposed to be my inheritance in the future. I rushed over stark naked, running and wailing all the way, each cry like a demonic sound piercing the ears. The bullet comments were frantic. Ah, baby's here, baby, run, your dad's in the innermost room. I rushed over like a firecracker, lay down at the doorway, and started wailing and throwing a tantrum at the top of my lungs. No adult could possibly endure that for more than 3 minutes, before I even had a chance to fully indulge in my floor-rolling fit. The door opened with a snap. Simon's eyes were dark and gloomy, his body drenched, and blood dripped from his fingertips. He looked exactly like a damp, shadowy ghost that had just crawled out of hell. Shut up. Upon seeing me rolling on the ground, his pale and stern face immediately contorted with rage, and veins bulged on his forehead. Are you trying to rebel? I immediately got up and hugged him, lifting my little face as tears rolled down. Woo-woo, baby can't live without daddy. Simon froze for a moment. I looked at him with fear and unease. Does daddy not like me? Amid my prolonged crying, he frowned and awkwardly spoke. No, want a hug? Tearfully, I opened my arms, eagerly waiting. Simon, his head throbbing, reluctantly bandaged his bleeding wrist and, with a cold expression, picked me up. Half an hour later, he tucked me into bed and, with that incredibly grim face, turned and left. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, the bullet comments exploded again. Ah, baby. Keep crying, your dad's ordering sleeping pills. Hurry up and find something for your dad to do, or your newly acquired heiress status will vanish. Damn, I cried my voice hoarse for nothing. Since I'd already gone this far, I wailed even louder. The man rubbed his temples. What is it now? Just as Simon's patience ran out, I shamelessly whined to him. Daddy, I'm hungry. Seeing that I was about to cry again, Simon, still wary, quickly put down his phone. He didn't like having people in the house. The nanny had left right after bathing me. He had to do it himself. I was like a little shadow, sticking close to his heels. He carried me to the living room sofa to sit and wait. The moment he turned around, I was right back at his side, tail wagging. Simon had no choice but to put up with me, and I tormented him to the point where his emotional stability became terrifying. He opened the fridge and asked, "Do you want noodles?" I instinctively replied. "Will it be enough to fill me up?" Simon paused for a moment, then added several extra handfuls of noodles while cooking. Looking at the full bowl of vegetable and egg noodles, I couldn't help but salivate, grabbing my chopsticks and shoveling the food into my mouth. Simon's expression softened for a moment. Slow down, it's hot. Perhaps I was just too hungry. With food in front of me, all I wanted to do was stuff my face. When I was halfway through my second bowl, I had just swallowed the last bite when I suddenly threw up with a wah sound. I threw up so much that I felt dizzy and disoriented. Simon was startled and flustered, looking somewhat helpless. I clutched my stomach, curled up, drenched in cold sweat, tears welling up in my eyes, and the fear of death once again enveloped me. Dad, my stomach hurts so much. Am I going to die? Simon drove me to the hospital, and I was in a daze the whole way, rambling incoherently as I started to give my last wishes. Dad, can you give me a name? I don't have a name yet. I want a name full of blessings. In my blurred vision, I saw Simon's trembling hand. When my consciousness cleared again, I was lying on a hospital bed receiving an 4 drip. The doctor's scolding reached my ears. How could you, as a father, take care of a child like this? Kids might be greedy and naive, but aren't you supposed to know better? Do you have any idea how much your daughter ate tonight? Even an adult might struggle with that amount, let alone a little girl. How could she possibly handle it? The doctor glanced at his wrist and sighed. Find some time to get that bandaged. Your child is watching. Nothing is insurmountable. Simon was filled with self-reproach. The man who always gave orders was now standing there meekly taking a scolding. His previously lifeless face finally showed some expression befitting a living person. I vomited several more times that night. He ran up and down, taking care of me, and finally collapsed, falling asleep by the bedside. I looked at his weary sleeping face, feeling a warm yet bittersweet ache in my heart. In my past life, I was called hopeless, the daughter of a gambler and an alcoholic, unable to endure the torment. My mother abandoned me and ran away with my newborn brother. Everyone knew she took the son to get back at my father. Back then, my father spent a lot of money to have this son. Even my 2 younger sisters were sold off by him one after another. Now, my mother has taken away his only son, making his own flesh and blood call another man Dad. To him, this is the ultimate humiliation. In that backward, feudal mountain village, my father became the biggest joke. I naturally bore the brunt of all his anger. Whenever he was unhappy, he would beat and kick me. The worst time, he beat me half to death and left me in a torrential downpour. If he hadn't been afraid that I might die and he wouldn't get any money for me, he might have truly wanted to beat me to death. Later, he planned to sell me to an old bachelor in the village to get money to marry a new wife. I ran for my life. To earn money, I went to work in a factory. After working like crazy for several months, the boss saw that I was young and not only didn't pay me, but also made me pay him. Finally, I collapsed in the workshop due to malnutrition and died suddenly. This was the first time I learned that eating too much can make you vomit. This is what it feels like to be worried about and cared for. My gaze fell on Simon's rebandaged wrist, and I whispered, "Good night, Dad." When Simon woke up, I was flapping my little hands, playing with stickers. Simon's gaze froze on the cute sticker on the gauze around his wrist. Assistant Jack stood by, his face pale with anxiety, frantically explaining for me, "Miss, she's at the age where she loves to play." I put another Peppa Pig sticker on him. "Daddy, it won't hurt anymore when you put this on." Simon awkwardly stroked my hair. "Thank you." Assistant Jack was so shocked his eyes almost popped out. The atmosphere in the bullet chat livened up. "Ah, what a cute baby, let Auntie give you a kiss. It really is better to be busy." The villain was so tired yesterday he just fell asleep. He didn't have any thoughts of suicide. Baby's big achievement. After being discharged from the hospital, Simon named me Sophia. Before I could even be happy, Assistant Jack thoughtfully suggested the next second, "Mr. Simon, the young lady is old enough for kindergarten." Simon looked at me, his clingy little attachment, and said with relief, "I'll leave it to you to arrange, as soon as possible." I cling to him and annoy him, not because I'm afraid he'll do something rash, but to give him something to do. Is he really that impatient? I gritted my teeth, turned around, picked up the doll Uncle Jack gave me, and then looked at Simon with anticipation. "This is the doll Uncle Jack bought for me, but Daddy will buy me more, right?" Assistant Jack turned pale and stammered, "Miss, can I have these back?" After starting kindergarten, I couldn't stay by Simon's side every moment, so I had to monitor his every move through bullet comments. He hired 2 nannies to look after me, leaving early and returning late, almost wishing he could just live at the company. When a person has been in the dark for too long, the moment they touch sunlight, they will be afraid. But that didn't stop me. Every time school ended, I'd bombard him with voice messages. Every night, I would wait for him to come home before eating, and no one could persuade me otherwise. The nanny could only take turns calling Simon. Several times, I was so tired that I fell asleep at the dining table. Although Simon didn't say anything, he started coming home earlier and earlier. When he gloomily retreated to his bedroom, I showed up with kindergarten craft assignments, staging the despair and fear of being driven to tears by manual labor. Simon stayed up 2 nights building a giant rocket for me so I could submit my assignment on time, and so, he was a diligent CEO at work, but came home to be a single dad, physically and mentally exhausted. He didn't even have enough time to sleep, no time to think about death. When I learned through bullet comments that his birthday was in 3 days, I specifically asked the nanny to order a cake early. On the day, right after school, I had the driver take me to the company to find Simon, ready to give him a surprise. When Assistant Jack came downstairs to pick me up after receiving the call, he looked worried. He forced a smile and tried to comfort me. Mr. Simon is busy. He'll come home to be with you when he's done, okay? Just as I hesitated to leave, the bullet screen in front of me changed. Baby, don't go. The villain's evil old mother is here again. Damn it, she's going to fight the villain for that fake son. Ah, the villain is bleeding. Why didn't the villain dodge just now? It's infuriating. I remember she even stabbed the villain here, sending him straight to the emergency room. In the end, although the villain was rescued, his company was driven into bankruptcy by that illegitimate son. My heart suddenly tightened, and I rushed forward, clutching the small backpack. Assistant Jack was caught off guard and hurried after me, stopping me while coaxing, Miss, how about I take you to buy some toys? The difference in strength between us was too great, so I could only look at him pitifully and say, I can wait until Daddy is done, Uncle Jack. I won't cause any trouble. Assistant Jack looked troubled. I tugged at his sleeve and pleaded, please. I even brought a gift for Dad. He led me into the elevator, specifically telling me not to run around. But as soon as we stepped out of the elevator, we heard the sound of things being smashed. Even though the office door was tightly shut, I could still hear the furious shouting from inside. Jack's assistant instinctively covered my ears. Frowning as he led me toward the distant reception room, I immediately shook off his hand and rushed over at full speed. Miss, the office was in complete disarray. The woman pulled out a knife and pointed it at him, hysterically cursing, Simon, you're an ungrateful bastard, a vicious snake. No wonder they doesn't want you. You're destined to never be loved in this life. Simon stood there expressionless, blood trickling down his forehead, his pristine collar soaked with blood. He suddenly let out a chilling laugh, then abruptly grabbed the woman's hand, pressing the knife tip against his own chest. Don't you want to kill me? Come on. A blinding red bloomed from the knife tip, spreading rapidly. The woman turned deathly pale with fright, desperately trying to shake off the knife in her hand, but Simon tightened his grip, inching it closer step by step. I screamed in terror, Daddy. Simon froze abruptly, and upon seeing me, a fleeting look of panic flashed across his previously lifeless face. I rushed over and hugged him tightly. Daddy is not unwanted. Daddy has me. Sophia is Daddy's family. Simon immediately dropped the knife, fearing he might accidentally hurt me, and repeatedly checked, asking anxiously, Are you hurt anywhere? I shook my head. The woman collapsed to the ground, crying and laughing hysterically as she cursed, You're not my son. You can't be my son. It must be that bitch's scheme, isn't it? Simon, why don't you just die? Go die. Soon. Security rushed in and took the deranged woman away. Suppressing the anger on his face, Simon reprimanded Jack, his assistant, who told you to bring Sophia up here. What if something had happened? Mr. Simon, I'm sorry. I couldn't stop. I tugged at Simon's sleeve, interrupting. I insisted on coming up. I'm here to celebrate Dad's birthday. With that, I ran out. Clumsily, I brought the cake in front of Simon, presenting it like a treasure. Happy birthday, Dad. Simon's angry dark eyes paused, and he quickly lowered his gaze, his expression still stern, though the corners of his eyes seemed to redden. Is this for me? His voice was slightly hoarse. I nodded vigorously. Yes, from now on, I'll celebrate Dad's birthday every year. Finally, most of the cake ended up in my stomach. Fortunately, Simon wasn't seriously injured and only needed simple bandaging, but I still couldn't relax. Even in my sleep I kept clutching the corner of his clothes. In the middle of the night, I suddenly developed a high fever. Simon was so frightened that he immediately rushed me to the hospital, in such a hurry that he didn't even have time to change out of his pajamas. The doctor said I was just scared out of my wits. Simon, filled with guilt and remorse, held me tightly and comforted me repeatedly. Daddy's fine. Sophia, don't be afraid. His eyes held a tenderness I had never seen before. After that day, Simon and I became closer. Before I could bother him with my bedtime reading, he proactively bought a full set of storybooks and read me bedtime stories. Knowing I craved snacks at night, he would even cook supper for me himself, without the interference of outsiders like the male and female leads. Simon's mood is currently very stable. Half a month later, the male and female leads got married, And the story headed towards its conclusion. Everything had settled. I had thought the ending of Simon's suicide had been averted, but I still underestimated the female lead's influence on him. The barrage of, the end, let's celebrate, filling the screen suddenly took a drastic turn. What's the villain up to? Why is he heading to the rooftop for no reason? Could it be that he's so heartbroken by the female lead's marriage that he's considering suicide? Oh no, after all. The villain has always suffered from severe depression and a strong self-destructive tendency. Moreover, in the original plot, he died by suicide because of the female lead's marriage, and that rooftop overlooks the female lead's wedding, and he will choose to die at the moment she steps towards happiness. Damn it, even at the ending, they still have to stab me in the heart. I suddenly sat up from the small bed where I was taking a nap. Forcing myself to calm down, the next moment, I dialed Simon's number on my smartwatch. The plot insists on Simon's death, but I refuse to let it happen. Dad, Sophia, are you calling because you're feeling unwell? Is Dad on the rooftop right now? I interrupted him. Simon's voice faltered. Daddy, suddenly there's a very strange voice in my ear. They say Daddy will jump off the rooftop. And only if I disappear can this be avoided. Simon's tone was sharp and stern. But it couldn't hide the panic in his voice. Where are you right now? Sobbing, I said. As long as Daddy can live, I can disappear. Without waiting for Simon to respond, I hung up the phone directly, deliberately making noise as I ran out of the kindergarten. The bullet screen exploded again. Damn, can she hear these bullet comments we're sending? Did the baby stop the villain's suicide through us all along? Ha ha ha. With the baby girl saying that, how would the villain dare to die now? Baby, you're amazing. The villain's billions should rightfully be yours to inherit. When Simon received the principal's call, his face instantly changed. He rushed down from the rooftop and frantically dialed my number. To teach Simon a lesson, I decided to go all out. After preparing a large bag of emergency supplies, I threw away the watch with the tracker. With the experience from my past life, I managed to hide for 3 days. The barrage of comments worried about me for 3 whole days. Simon searched for me tirelessly, day and night, for 3 days and 3 nights. When Simon finally found me, I was sleeping soundly under a bridge. Apart from being a bit dirty, there's nothing wrong with him. In contrast, Simon looked utterly disheveled. The usually fastidious man was wearing a crumpled white shirt, his eyes bloodshot, and he hadn't even shaved the stubble on his chin. Bleary-eyed, I looked at him and almost didn't recognize him. Dad, Simon held me tightly. His voice hoarse and choked. Okay, Daddy's taking you home. After a quick wash-up, Simon scheduled a full-body checkup for me. During the examination, Simon asked me what happened on the day I went missing, especially the strange sounds I hear. In front of the doctor, I repeated what I had said last time. The doctor frowned. Are you saying you often hear strange sounds? I nodded. When did it start? I frowned and pondered seriously. Dad heard it after he brought me home, anyway. No one would believe what a child said, especially something so bizarre. The doctor mused for a moment. The child's auditory hallucinations might be influenced by adults. As he spoke, the doctor glanced at the scars on Simon's wrist and tactfully said, Has the child ever witnessed any of your extreme behaviors? Simon's pupils trembled violently. This incident may have left her with significant psychological trauma. She's afraid of losing you, but because she feels powerless to change anything. It has led to her developing auditory hallucinations, attempting to harm herself to get your attention. Simon squeezed my hand, his flushed eyes seemingly filled with a myriad of thoughts. After the examination, I am healthy in all aspects. Simon also booked an examination for himself. Assistant Jack waited with me outside. I looked at the words, psychological clinic, and a wave of joy surged through me. I knew he was actively fighting for his life. Uncle Jack. I want to buy a bouquet of flowers for Dad. I want to celebrate his rebirth. Woo-woo, the baby is so heartwarming. I really want to raise one like this. It's the first time I've seen a villain burst out with such a strong will to survive. He must really love the baby, right? After this day, Simon went to see a psychologist every week, perhaps fearing I might do something foolish again. He insisted on personally driving me to and from kindergarten every day, unconsciously. The focus of his life had completely shifted to me. Inside the car, Simon, wearing gold-rimmed half-frame glasses, was intently flipping through a copy of The Parenting Encyclopedia. I rested my head on Simon's lap, feeling drowsy, led by Simon as we got off the car. Exclamations of surprise immediately surrounded us. At private kindergartens, it's rare for parents to personally pick up and drop off their children. Amid a circle of nannies and aunties, Simon, dressed in a sharp suit, stood out conspicuously. What's more, he also possessed a superior appearance. Simon held a pink backpack in one hand and my hand in the other, exuding a strong husbandly vibe. All the children around looked at me with envy. Wow, Sophia, is he your dad? Your dad is so handsome. I hugged Simon's leg and boasted, of course he is. With such a handsome dad, I'll be bragging about it for the rest of my life. The kids chattered excitedly as they gathered around. Staring at Simon with drooling admiration, someone boldly asked, "Can you let me have your dad? I can give you all my pocket money." I immediately spread my arms to shield Simon. "No, my dad loves me so much." The child still didn't give up, blinking her eyes and looking at Simon with full expectation. "Not even for one day." Simon stroked my head and gently but mercilessly refused her. "No." The child walked away dejectedly. The barrage comments burst into laughter. Who wouldn't want such a cool dad? Give us more of this parenting content. The baby is so adorable. And the villain remains consistently handsome. After bidding farewell to Simon, I walked into the kindergarten with my head held high, under the envious gazes of many. Suddenly, a huge wall of flesh crashed into me from behind, sending me flying. I got up and gave the chubby kid who hit me a good beating. The chubby kid, Tom, and I didn't get along from the start. I don't know what got into him today, but he started picking on me the moment we met. I pushed Tom to the ground, his flesh quivering as he struggled to get up for a long time. Amid the mocking laughter of the other children, he gritted his teeth and said hatefully, "Sophia, what's there for an orphan like you to be so proud of? Your father was a bastard. You're just another unwanted bastard too." I rolled up my sleeves, plopped down on top of him, and started swinging left and right. "You're the bastard, my dad told me," Tom wailed like a banshee while shouting at the top of his lungs. A bastard is someone born from a fox spirit outside. The kids didn't know what a fox spirit was, but they knew it was something bad. The way they looked at me instantly changed. Tom immediately became smug. I sneered coldly. "I get it now. You're just jealous of me. That's why you're deliberately badmouthing my dad." The chubby kid glared. "What do I have to be jealous of you for?" I pouted. "Then why doesn't your dad drop you off at school?" "Oh, how puzzling. Is it because your dad doesn't love you, you little piece of trash?" Tom's menacing face instantly crumbled, and tears streamed down. He stiffened his neck and stubbornly said, "My dad is just very busy." I happily spun around. "My dad even picks me up after school." Tom cried out with a wail, and it was loud. I thought Tom would steer clear of me after that lesson, but that little jerk actually accused me of stealing his necklace. I was called into the teacher's office, and Tom falsely accused me first. I saw her steal it with my own eyes. It's in her backpack. The children at this private kindergarten all come from wealthy or influential families, and the teachers couldn't afford to offend any of them. So, they coaxed me. "Sophia, let the teacher check your backpack." "Okay, on what grounds?" Tom smirked triumphantly. "If you didn't steal it, why are you afraid to let the teacher check? Who knows if you planted it there on purpose?" While we were still arguing, Tom's mom rushed to the school. It turned out Tom had stolen his mom's jewelry and brought it to school, jewelry worth millions. His mom was so shocked that she drove over immediately. Tom saw his mom coming and panicked for a second, then immediately pointed at me. "Mom, she stole your necklace." It suddenly occurred to me, this little trash had mentioned a few days ago that he wanted to give a really pretty necklace to the popular girl in the next class. Turns out he stole his mom's jewelry to impress her, got rejected, and then used it to frame me. Mrs. Smith started cursing and rushed over to slap me. The teacher quickly intervened. "Mrs. Smith, this might be a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding? Are you suggesting my son is lying?" Mrs. Smith snorted heavily. "Just search her bag and you'll see." Soon, the teacher brought over my backpack. Mrs. Smith publicly pulled out a diamond necklace from inside it. She glared at me. "What's there to say when you've been caught red-handed? You're young, so I won't make it hard for you. Just admit publicly that you're a thief and apologize to my son." The teacher tried hard to dissuade her. "Mrs. Smith, perhaps this is all a misunderstanding. Now that the necklace has been found, there's no need to make such a big fuss." Suddenly, the office door was kicked open. Simon walked in with a gloomy face. What do you mean? A misunderstanding. Check the surveillance. Jack, the assistant, immediately took the order and went to the head of the kindergarten to verify. Mrs. Smith lifted her chin. Who do you think you are? Simon picked me up and gently comforted me. Don't be afraid, Sophia, Daddy believes you. My eyes suddenly welled up. Despite my anger, I clung tightly to Simon. Simon looked coldly at the woman opposite him, his voice chilling. I am Simon, Sophia's father. Until the surveillance results are out, clean up your mouth. Mrs. Smith was furious, but was too intimidated by Simon's cold and dark aura to speak. Tom, who was standing by, was clearly flustered, his squinting eyes darting around nervously. Soon, the surveillance results were out. Mrs. Smith's face turned green and purple as she looked at the surveillance footage, a truly spectacular sight. She snorted and dragged Tom away. Simon winked, and Assistant Jack immediately stepped forward to block the way. Simon's imposing aura was terrifying. Apologize to my daughter in front of everyone. Mrs. Smith immediately laid down a harsh warning. Do you know who my husband is? 10 minutes later, Tom's father rushed over. His father stormed in furiously, but the moment he laid eyes on Simon, he immediately tucked his tail between his legs. Mr. Simon, it's you. Turning around, he directly slapped Tom twice. Hurry up and apologize to your classmate. Tom cried like a pig, his face full of fear as he apologized to me. Mr. Simon, the child doesn't know any better. Consider this necklace a toy for your daughter. Simon left the choice of whether to forgive up to me. I took the necklace and immediately threw it into the trash, and started to complain. Dad, Tom said his dad told him that both you and I are bastards. Mr. Smith was so frightened that sweat immediately broke out on his forehead, and he promptly kicked Tom twice more. Mr. Simon, children's words shouldn't be taken seriously. This little brat must have picked it up somewhere. I'll make sure to discipline him strictly from now on. Holding Simon, I borrowed his authority to intimidate. Dad, the weather is getting cold. It's time to bankrupt the Smith family. Simon echoed. Baby makes a good point. Mr. Smith was so scared he immediately knelt down. I became famous overnight. From then on, Tom avoided me like a cat avoids a mouse. No one dared to bully me in kindergarten anymore. They even vied with each other to curry favor with me. Because their parents wanted to take the opportunity to meet Simon, they all started personally taking their children to school. After intermittently continuing for a month, they all gave up, and my dad, rain or shine, he never missed a single parent-teacher meeting at kindergarten. I became the happiest child in kindergarten. I proudly boasted to Simon, all the kids envy me because my dad loves me. I love Dad very much too. The next time the male lead heard news of the female lead, it was the news of her son's birth. Plus, the male lead's good friend, who was a troublemaker, would occasionally harass Simon. I was constantly on guard, afraid Simon would be affected, and would provoke him from time to time. I skillfully pulled out a stack of pedophile photos and handed them to Simon, saying in a sarcastic tone, Uncle, which one do you think would be suitable to be my new dad? Simon, without a word, immediately cut off my supper. For a foodie, this was no different from taking my life. The next day, he turned around and bought me a building, and he said, without any humanity, Sophia, do you still want to change your dad? I shed tears of excitement. Dad, you are my dad forever. No one can replace you. After starting junior high, I began to refuse Simon's pickups and drop-offs. Simon was depressed about this for several days. He repeatedly confirmed with me, does Sophia really not need Dad to pick her up? The bullet comments were overjoyed. Ha ha ha, the villain just turned into a doting father. This dad needs to learn to be independent. What kind of father clings to his daughter every day? Using my birthday as an excuse, I adopted a cat and a dog. Simon, who used to drive me to school every day, was forced to wake up early to walk the dog instead. Over these 6 years, isolated from the influence of the male and female leads, Simon, with no interest in romance, expanded his business empire significantly. However, the male and female protagonists did not live happily ever after, as the story's ending suggested. They were a couple envied by all, but ultimately ended in divorce. It is said to be related to the male protagonist's meddling brother. When I learned about this through the bullet comments, the male and female leads had already been divorced for over a year. I couldn't bear to see Simon either engrossed in work or playing with his dogs and cats. I decided to help him fulfill his long-cherished wish. He just wants to find a mom for me, right? As long as I convince her son, will his mother not accept it? When I found out which elementary school the female lead son attended, I skipped class and went. Well, everything is for my dad's happiness. When I sneaked into the elementary school section, I saw a group of kids bullying him. The protagonist's halo nearly blinded me, a first-grade brat, bullied until his eyes turned red. Still clutching his little lunchbox tightly, stubborn, enduring, yet unwilling, oh dear, how pitiful. Unfortunately, one person can't fight off a crowd. Soon, his lunchbox was snatched and thrown to the ground. The leading child even stomped on his lunchbox twice. I rushed out just in time, a hero saving the damsel in distress. The boy held a dirty lunchbox, his eyes dark and bright as he looked at me. Thank you, originally. I was worried about how I would tie him up and take him home if he didn't cooperate. Now, hasn't the opportunity just presented itself? I patted the dust off him. Little one, do you want to come to my place for lunch? With just a few words, I managed to coax the little rascal back to my home. He sat stiffly on the sofa, secretly watching me. I cut him fruit, comforted him, and even promised to have his back from then on, just so he could genuinely call my dad, father. The moment Simon pushed the door open and came back, I was so excited that I kicked the boy hard and ordered, "Go call him dad." The boy looked at Simon, then at me. Her face turned red. Even the way she looked at me became much shyer. But my dad got furious, grabbing something to teach me a lesson. "Sophia, how dare you? Not only are you daring to have a puppy love, but you're also bringing back such a little brat. How old is this kid? Has he even started kindergarten yet? And you dare to mess around with him?" I dodged. "What kindergarten? He's already in first grade." "No, I'm not in an early relationship. I'm giving you your son, and you don't even want him." Simon, such a calm and rational person, chased me for 2 blocks with his dog. It seems Simon is destined to be only my father. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I am the early deceased biological mother of the minor villain in a sweet romance novel. The first thing I did after reincarnating was to beat up my domineering CEO husband, who sacrificed himself for love in our past life. While dodging, he delivered his typical CEO lines, "Woman, don't play with fire, let me warn you, if you're trying to provoke me." The 3-year-old little villain hugged his plush bear and obediently replied, "Then you're definitely going to lose." I'm speechless. The domineering CEO husband said, "Kid, why are you stealing your dad's lines? A childish husband and a 3-year-old kid. In this life, I must live well, otherwise, this family would fall apart without me." Only after death did I realize I was actually a crucial cannon fodder in a sweet romance novel. My domineering CEO husband was another major cannon fodder. Our sole purpose for existing was to build a business empire as the female lead's backing, but we only have one son, and his name is Ivan. Yet he's not the male lead, he's the villain. I died unexpectedly on Ivan's 5th birthday. On the 7th day after my death, my husband committed suicide for love. My soul followed Ivan and witnessed what happened to him afterward. Orphaned Ivan was adopted by his uncle, who also seized the company my husband and I had built. Ivan's uncle frequently beat and scolded him, often leaving him without enough to eat. And Uncle Ivan's daughter, the kind and adorable female lead in the sweet romance novel, cruelly made Ivan act like a puppy for her. From Ivan's age of 5 until he turned 18, my soul watched as he grew increasingly gloomy and indifferent, covered in wounds from being bullied. Later, because he opposed the male and female leads, they schemed to have him fall into the sea, leaving no trace of his body. At that time, he wasn't even 20 years old. Overwhelming grief engulfed my entire soul, and my consciousness completely faded away. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself reborn, back in the year when Ivan was 3 years old. Before me were work documents spread across the desk, and beside me was my husband Oscar, diligently working on a craft with his tools. My mind went blank, and without thinking, I slapped Oscar across the face. He instinctively covered his face, revealing a shocked expression. "Why did you hit me?" Hearing the familiar voice, I was completely enraged, rolling up my sleeves and grabbing Oscar by the collar. "Do I need a reason to hit you, this useless thing?" I originally thought that after my death, Oscar, as Ivan's biological father, could take care of Ivan and ensure he grew up safely, even if he was usually unreliable. Who knew this idiot would turn around and follow me in death? if he had just lived properly and not done something so foolish, my Ivan wouldn't have suffered for so many years. At that moment, my soul was following Ivan when I suddenly heard the news that Oscar had committed suicide for me, and my mind went completely blank. In the following decade or so spent by Ivan's side, witnessing all the suffering he endured, I wished every day that I could grab Oscar and beat him to a pulp. Now that I finally see him in person, I truly can't hold back for even a minute. Oscar, whose collar I was gripping, snapped. Do you really think you're a match for me? I elbowed him in retaliation. Oscar let out a cry of pain and immediately broke free from my grip as soon as my next slap didn't land, darting around the desk to escape. While scrambling away in a fluster, he shouted threats at the top of his voice. Woman, I'm warning you not to go too far. Do you think hitting me makes you the head of this household? Woman, don't push your luck. Fiona, let me tell you, if you're trying to provoke me. Oscar's words were cut short by a childish voice. You're bound to lose then. A 3-year-old toddler, dressed in a fluffy tiger onesie and clutching a teddy bear, had somehow suddenly appeared at the doorway. I immediately froze in place and turned to look. Oscar glanced over in confusion, his tone displeased. Kid, why are you stealing your dad's line? I immediately got angry again, stepped forward, and grabbed Oscar's ear. I told you not to corrupt the child. Oscar yelped in pain. I didn't. Ouch. Ouch. Let go quickly, my ear. You're going to tear my ear off. Ivan also ran over to me, clutching his plush teddy bear, and hugged my leg. Mommy, don't let Daddy lose his ear. I released Oscar, crouched down, and picked up Ivan. Ivan seemed a bit uneasy as he fidgeted, so I patted his head and carried him out of the study. Ivan nuzzled my face and said, Mommy, don't be angry. Hearing Ivan's voice, I kissed his soft, fair little cheek and replied, Mommy isn't angry, Mommy and Daddy were just playing around. Ivan nodded obediently. I put him to bed and coaxed him to sleep. It was almost 10 o'clock at night now. Normally, Ivan would have been asleep by 9. He kept staring at me as I sat by the bed, picked up a fairy tale book, and began telling him a story. In less than 10 minutes, Ivan's steady breathing could be heard beside me. I put down the storybook, tucked Ivan in, and gazed earnestly at his little face. In this life, I must strive to escape my early death fate and raise Ivan well. As I prepared to get up and leave, Ivan's tiny hand suddenly grasped my finger. Mommy. I paused for a moment, then sat back down where I was. After half an hour, making sure Ivan was breathing steadily, I returned to the study. Oscar immediately crouched in the corner as soon as he saw me. He looked at me warily. Don't think I can't do anything about you. If you dare hit me again, I'll run away from home. My emotions had calmed down considerably, and without paying attention to his words, I bluntly asked him, if I were to die one day, would you die for love with me? Oscar seemed stunned by my words. Do you think I'd be that foolish? He replied. I sneered. You'd better not. He also sneered. Of course I wouldn't. So we each went about our own business. After finishing up, we went back to the room together. After washing up, he pinned me down as soon as he got back to bed. Let's have sex, I said. Get lost. Early the next morning, Oscar and I took Ivan to kindergarten together. Ivan was very clingy to me, so I sat with him in the back seat. This made Oscar, who was driving, somewhat unhappy. Kid, you're 3 years old now, a big boy. Stop clinging to my wife. Ivan looked at me pitifully. Mommy, I patted Ivan's hair without looking up. Oscar, if you're looking for trouble, keep your mouth shut, Oscar scoffed. Fiona, you're only acting this way because I spoil you. Dad, Ivan tilted his little head up. Don't play with fire. I pressed my lips together. Oscar gritted his teeth. I'm not playing with fire. Then he stared at Ivan. And you're not allowed to play with fire either. Kids who play with fire wet their beds. I was about to speak when I heard Ivan's soft, childish voice. But Daddy always says Mommy plays with fire. Oscar was speechless. So that's why we're the adults. I clenched my fists. As expected, Oscar is the kind of person who, if not disciplined for 3 days, will tear the roof off. My 3-year-old son is more sensible than him, but it's okay, I can subdue him with my fists. As expected, Oscar was quiet the whole way to kindergarten. After parting ways with Ivan at the kindergarten gate, Oscar received a call from his younger brother. Back when Oscar's parents passed away, they asked him to take good care of his younger brother, who was only a year his junior, so during those years, no matter how tough life got, Oscar always looked after Owen. After I married Oscar, I also took care of this brother-in-law whenever possible. In front of us, he was always very obedient. Since Owen had no real capabilities, Oscar only gave him a nominal position in the company, but provided him with a substantial monthly allowance. I originally thought that as a couple, we had treated their family well enough. But I never expected their ambitions to be so vast. In my previous life, after I died, Oscar took his own life to follow me in death. Owen took it upon himself to adopt Ivan and also seized all the shares that belonged to me and Oscar. If he could treat Ivan well, then so be it. But not only did he not let Ivan eat his fill, he also frequently beat and scolded Ivan. While the family dined on delicacies in the bright dining room, Ivan could only crouch in a small corner holding a bowl of rice soup. They lived in large, comfortable rooms. While Ivan was relegated to the storage room, Ivan was so hungry that he couldn't bear it anymore and took a carton of milk from the fridge. When Owen found out, he almost broke his hand. What's infuriating is that he uses my and Owen's money, lives in our house, and even bullies our child. It was also through his cursing that I realized how much he hated me and Oscar. He felt that we only gave him money but didn't let him hold a high position in the company. Looking down on him, seeing Ivan suffer so much, I hate Owen to death. In this life, I will never let him off easy. Oscar came back after answering the phone and hesitantly said to me, Owen said Heidi needs to attend a dance class and asked me to transfer him $100,000. The monthly allowance of $50,000 for Owen was also set by me. But Owen always finds various excuses to ask Oscar for money. Little does he know, I'm the one who manages all the money in our household. Oscar only gets $1,000 in pocket money each month. However, he's not much of a spender, and by the end of every month, he still manages to transfer me $520. So whenever Owen asks him for money, Oscar always tells me, I used to think it wasn't a big deal. If it was for something important, giving money would be fine. After all, Owen and Oscar are biological brothers. But now, he actually wants to take my money too. No. Oscar looked at me with confusion, as if he didn't understand why I suddenly refused to give Owen money. But he didn't ask either. He just picked up his phone and sent a message to Owen. This is what I like about Oscar. No matter how childish he usually is or occasionally spouts cheesy CEO lines, I can always indulge him, because normally, he is really well behaved. I thought Owen would come straight to the office to make a scene, but within less than an hour, I received a call from Ivan's kindergarten teacher. My heart sank, and after answering the call, I learned that Ivan had been hit by Owen's daughter, Heidi, at the kindergarten. Rushing to the kindergarten with Owen in a hurry, I saw Heidi pointing at Ivan's nose and yelling arrogantly, while Owen watched smugly from the side. Ivan was held protectively in the arms of the kindergarten teacher, sobbing quietly. Shut up, I said as I stepped forward, pulling Heidi away and quickly embracing Ivan. Held in my arms, Ivan whispered tearfully, Mom, Heidi said if Dad doesn't give her $100,000 for dance classes, she'll kill me. Oscar's eyes widened in shock, looking disbelievingly at Heidi and then at his younger brother Owen. What's going on, Owen? To be honest, Oscar's cold demeanor was quite intimidating. Owen, who had been smug just moments ago, was almost scared into a quivering mess. Bro, you saw it yourself. It's just kids playing around. Besides, Heidi is a well-behaved child. How could she say such things? Don't listen to Ivan's nonsense. Should I trust my own son or you? Oscar's face was exceptionally grim. He had witnessed how I nearly died giving birth to Ivan, even if he usually acts childish when it comes to serious matters. He knows who he should trust. Owen's face darkened, but he didn't dare to pick a fight with us. He knew his living expenses still depended on me and Oscar. He could only force an awkward smile at us. Kids having a little conflict isn't really a big deal. Besides, if you had just transferred the money to me, Heidi wouldn't have been able to sign up for dance class, and she wouldn't have gotten so angry. Owen made the final call. Bro, we're both at fault here. How about we compromise? I'll have Heidi apologize to Ivan, and then you can just give me that $100,000. It's a win-win. I stared at him coldly. Why should we give you the money we worked so hard to earn? Owen, listen to me carefully. Starting today, all your additional monthly allowances are cancelled. You can keep that job if you want, or quit it if you don't. Owen is foolish, always a chauvinist, and can't resist a challenge. He could tolerate it before. But the moment he heard I was canceling his allowance, he immediately couldn't take it anymore. Sure enough, as soon as I said those words, he angrily started rolling up his sleeves. How dare you speak like that? Fiona, that's the money my brother gave me. What's it got to do with you? Are you asking for a beating? Ivan trembled in fear in my arms. Mommy, is Uncle going to hit someone? I patted Ivan's head and placed him in Oscar's arms. Oscar froze for a moment. Then obediently held Ivan securely. Heidi stood by, fists clenched and waving triumphantly. Daddy, hit her, beat her to death for not signing me up for dance class. Go, Daddy, beat her to death. Encouraged, Owen grew even more aggressive, raising his fist and charging toward me. Ivan's teacher had initially tried to intervene, but seeing the situation, she dared not step forward anymore. I glanced at the surveillance camera in the office, lifted my foot, and kicked Owen out. Then I turned to Oscar and said, "Call the police." Without hesitation, Oscar held Ivan with one arm and pulled out his phone with the other to call the police immediately. Before Owen, lying on the ground, could even let out a groan, he started cursing at me. "Fiona, what are you doing? How dare you call the police on your own family?" Heidi also yelled at me, "You bad woman, you're not allowed to bully my dad." As she spoke, she charged at me like a little bull. Ivan quickly looked at me. "Mom." I raised a hand to hold Heidi back, pushing her toward Owen, while turning to reassure Ivan, "Don't be scared, Mommy's fine. If Owen wants to pick a fight with me, he probably doesn't know what I'm capable of." Back when I first met Oscar, it was because I saved him from being beaten up by a crowd. I wouldn't even flinch taking on 9 people at once. Owen, that outwardly strong but inwardly weak guy, was no match for me. As for little Heidi, she was even less of a challenge. Owen and Heidi could only huddle together and curse at me. I couldn't help but frown. How awful. I never imagined Heidi would turn out like this. I didn't interact with her much, but I still remember how sweet and adorable Heidi was at 1 year old, calling me Auntie so obediently, the way she is now, completely spoiled rotten by Owen and his wife. Ivan struggled in Oscar's arms, trying to reach me. I took him over and pointed at Owen and Heidi, the father-daughter pair, telling him, "See, Ivan. We shouldn't pick fights, but you don't have to be afraid of trouble either. No matter what happens, Mom and Dad will always stand by your side." Ivan looked at me, then glanced down, nodding obediently. "I understand, Mom." The kindergarten teacher nervously glanced at our family, then looked at Owen and Heidi. In the end, she had no choice but to notify Heidi's mother. After such an incident, Heidi wasn't in a condition to continue classes today. The police arrived quickly, because the kindergarten teacher had informed Heidi's mother in advance, so she and the police arrived almost simultaneously. A woman decked out in gold and silver came over and started yelling at me, but was stopped by the police. She then began crying to the police, but after questioning the situation, the officers took Owen away. She had no choice but to mutter a few more low curses at me before dragging Heidi away. As Heidi left, the look she gave me was chillingly cold. I fell silent for a moment. But that look, it didn't seem like a child's gaze at all. Could it be that she has also been reborn, bringing Ivan back home? He still clung tightly to me. Oscar was also unusually silent for once. I wanted to talk to him, but Oscar suddenly hugged me and spoke in a deep voice. "I'm sorry, honey." I froze for a moment. His voice grew slightly hoarse. "Having a family like mine has made you suffer." I sighed helplessly. Didn't expect that after failing to comfort the little one, now I have to comfort the big one too. But who asked them to be the most important people in my life this time around? Oscar had never been liked by his parents since childhood. His parents were ordinary looking, and so was Owen. Only Oscar was so handsome, as if he'd won the genetic lottery. If it weren't for the paternity test, Oscar's father would have doubted for who knows how long whether Oscar was truly his biological son. Because he stood out like an anomaly at home with his good looks, Oscar's parents disliked him intensely. They always favored Owen, his younger brother by 1 year. When Oscar was 16 and Owen 15, their parents died in an accident. Before passing away, she asked Oscar to take good care of Owen. From the age of 16 to now at 28, he has always kept his promise. I know he suffered a lot in the past. I feel for him too, but Oscar was clear-headed enough. Even if the Owen family was important to him, they never surpassed me and Ivan in his heart, so marrying him didn't make me feel wronged. I said with amusement, "Don't forget, I was the one who pursued you in the first place." It was all because of my first encounter with Oscar. I had only intended to stand up for justice and help those in need, but after driving those people away, when I turned around, I saw Oscar's breathtakingly handsome face. For someone like me who's obsessed with good looks, It was simply a blessing, so I started pursuing Oscar, even if he's childish, tsundere, and occasionally spouts cringy lines. But what does that matter? With a face like his, he's got it made. Not to mention, after marriage, I gave birth to such an adorable and handsome child like Ivan. My life was practically perfect, apart from dying young. In my previous life, I never had any regrets while I was alive. For a while after that, every day, Oscar and I would take Ivan to and from school together. Then head to the company to handle work. I've hired a private investigator to keep an eye on the Owen family. Heidi isn't going to kindergarten anymore. I heard she's been meeting with someone recently. I can now confirm she has been reborn. Then is the person she's in contact with that so-called male lead. Remembering how my Ivan was tricked into falling into the sea by them in the previous life, I can't help but wish to kill these two immediately. The private detective quickly sent me the photos. The sight of the two children playing together seemed perfectly normal, but those two faces, I will never forget. They are the so-called male and female leads in that sweet romance novel, Heidi and Louis. Never expected that both of them would be reborn. It's good that they can gather together now, saving me the trouble of tracking down Louis later. But I never expected that the first person they would come into contact with would actually be Ivan. That evening, I picked up Ivan and brought him home. Ivan has been frequently playing at the children's playground in the villa area lately, because there were dedicated security guards watching, plus surveillance cameras, so I felt completely at ease letting Ivan go play there. In his previous life, Ivan went out to play with other kids every day and never had any issues. That's why I left temporarily for 10 minutes this time. But I never expected to see Heidi and Louis after returning. They were gathered around Ivan, holding something in their hands and urging him to take it. Oscar and I often teach Ivan not to accept food from anyone except mom and dad, since Heidi had bullied Ivan before. Of course he didn't dare to take it, seeing them trying to force something into Ivan's mouth. I immediately ran over and took Ivan away. Heidi and Louis, seeing their actions suddenly interrupted by my appearance, showed fierce expressions on their faces. Auntie, we just wanted to play with Ivan. Why are you glaring at us? Auntie, you hurt me just now. The two of them complained loudly, drawing quite a bit of attention. The security guard, also worried that something might happen to the children, hurried over to ask. I then asked the security guard, are these two kids from here? I don't remember seeing them before. The security guard was at a loss for words. Then, I questioned further. Didn't you see them trying to stuff something into my child's mouth just now? If something happens to my child, can you take responsibility? Hearing this, the parents or nannies who had just been watching the spectacle were instantly stunned, their expressions turning serious. Those who can afford to live in this high-end villa area are all capable individuals. And this villa area was initially advertised as having guaranteed safety. If a child can just wander in and feed their own child something potentially toxic, by the time they realize it, it would already be too late for regrets. The security guard was somewhat at a loss but spoke with conviction. Well, the child is only 3 or 4 years old and just wants to play with other kids. There's no need for you to say such things. Besides, what harm could 2 little kids possibly do? After hearing the security guard's words, some people began to agree with him. Ivan suddenly said with grievance, but I told you they were going to bully me, uncle. Why didn't you listen to me? And the candy they gave me smells bitter. Ivan doesn't want to eat it. The people around instantly changed their expressions. Some even called the police directly. Heidi and Louis, seeing the situation turn bad, tried to run away but were stopped by the crowd. The candy in their hands was also confiscated by everyone. After the police arrived, they immediately sent the candy Ivan mentioned that smelled bitter for testing, where pesticide components were discovered. Combined with Ivan's statement, the security guard, Heidi, and Louis were all detained by the police. Heidi cried uncontrollably, I want to go home. I want my mom and dad. Woo-woo, you're all bullying me. I just wanted to give little brother Ivan some candy. What did I do wrong? Seeing this, Louis started crying along with her. Oscar rushed from the company to the police station. After hearing my words, his face turned pale with fright, and he quickly gathered Ivan into his arms. In Oscar's embrace, Ivan looked up at him with bright, questioning eyes. Daddy, are you crying? Oscar sniffled. No, you're seeing things, Ivan insisted, but Daddy's eyes are red. Daddy was running too fast, and some sand got in my eyes. But Daddy, there's no sand here. Oscar fell silent for a moment. Stop talking. Ivan obediently nodded and indeed stayed quiet. Heidi and Louis were still crying. I directly pinched their mouths open and called out to Oscar, "Feed the candy into their mouths." The surrounding police officers were momentarily stunned as Oscar charged forward with a single command. Heidi and Louis widened their eyes in terror. "No, save me quickly, let go of me, I don't want to eat." The police also came over trying to restrain both of us. Oscar dropped the candy. I released both of them. Facing the shocked and confused police officers, he said, "See, they knew the candy was poisonous." One of the older officers glared at me sternly. "Even so, you can't do this. Don't you know this is called knowingly breaking the law? What if something had happened? You're the victims here. Do you really want to spend a few years with us?" Oscar shook his head with a serious expression. "I just took real candy." "Nonsense. Those poison candies are evidence in police custody. How could we possibly have them? It's just that Oscar always carries candy in his pocket, prepared for me and Ivan." The police were momentarily stunned by our actions and didn't react immediately. "Now we can only say we were being reckless." I glanced at Heidi and Louis. "Officer, can we now confirm they intentionally poisoned my child?" Ivan sobbed beside me. "Uncle Officer, the candy smelled bitter. I didn't want to eat it. But Heidi and that strange man kept forcing me." I tried to get help from the security guard, but he ignored me. Ivan was already exceptionally cute and good-looking, with big eyes that could melt anyone's heart. Now, his innocent and aggrieved appearance looks even more heartbreaking. The police officers all comforted him. A pretty young female officer even gave him a small red envelope. "Little one, this is a red envelope I grabbed at someone's wedding yesterday. I'm giving it to you so we can share in the festive joy together." Ivan instinctively looked at me. I nodded lightly. Ivan obediently said thank you to the policewoman, his small hands accepting the tiny red envelope. Meanwhile, Heidi and Louis received complicated looks from all the officers. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they could hardly believe that children so young would dare to poison someone. Their parents arrived quickly. The security guard, already frightened, became even more flustered upon hearing that Heidi and Louis had intentionally poisoned the child and hurriedly revealed the truth. He said Louis's father was a security guard who had recently started working in the community, and his mother was a nanny for one of the households in the neighborhood. That's why they had let Louis in. Heidi claimed to be our relative, and since the security guard was on good terms with Louis's dad, knowing that Heidi and Louis were playmates, he casually let them in. Before I showed up, Ivan had asked him for help, but he didn't take it seriously. After all, he thought it was normal for kids to roughhouse. Moreover, because of his good relationship with Louis's dad, he naturally favored Louis and Heidi. Owen and his wife started shouting as soon as they entered, demanding the police release their daughter. Louis's parents were no less aggressive, questioning why the police had brought two young children to the station. Upon hearing that their child had deliberately tried to feed Ivan pesticide-laced candy, Owen merely paused for a moment before saying, "What do kids know?" The four adults continued to make a scene at the police station, while Heidi and Louis exchanged glances and quietly attempted to slip away, but they were discovered immediately. The police thought Heidi and Louis weren't ordinary children and wanted to give them a psychological evaluation. Oscar and I took Ivan straight home. After returning, Oscar fired Owen and filed a complaint against the villa area management staff. Louis's parents and that security guard were all fired. The property management came to apologize and assured that they would definitely strengthen the security measures for the villa in the future, guaranteeing that such incidents would never happen again. Owen appeared indifferent on the surface and didn't say anything, but once back home, he held me and Ivan tightly, still shaken by fear. At night when we slept, Ivan slept between us. He was sleeping soundly, while Oscar and I stayed up all night. I already had a plan, but I never expected Heidi and Louis to dare do such a thing. Taking advantage of being children, I must deal with them as soon as possible. Since murder is illegal, I've decided to find a way to send them to a mental hospital for now. But I never expected to receive a piece of good news the very next day. Heidi and Louis secretly escaped from the hospital under their parents' cover, only to find the outside crowded with people and cars, while Owen was in a particularly irritable mood. Noticing Louis was being extremely restless, he couldn't help but give Louis a shove. Just then, a car sped by. Heidi, who was holding Louis's hand tightly, couldn't escape either. It was said the scene was a bloody mess. Owen was completely terrified. Louis's parents, who witnessed their child die right before their eyes, went insane. They stabbed Owen to death with the fruit knife they carried to cut fruit for Lewis before the police arrived. Owen's wife was terrified out of her mind. She tried to run but couldn't escape either. By the time the police arrived, Lewis's parents were holding his head, crying their hearts out. I'm more concerned about the driver's situation, as this was an undeserved disaster for them. However, since Owen intentionally pushed Lewis, resulting in Heidi and Lewis being hit and killed together, and the driver was operating normally, legally, he bears no responsibility. No one is left to receive any humanitarian compensation. Lewis's parents are destined never to leave prison. The driver donated some money to charity to ward off bad luck. Everything was over, and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. From now on, my Ivan will no longer be the so-called villain, and I will live well. Accompanying him as he grows up, on the other side, Oscar was bullying Ivan again. Ivan played Gamoka with him, but since Oscar couldn't win, he kept cheating. Ivan came to me with grievances. Mommy, Ivan promises not to be like Daddy. Ivan will be an honest child. Oscar got angry. Ivan, how dare you say that? Ivan snorted. Dad went too far. The father and son started arguing and asked me whose side I was on. Without hesitation, I reached out and pinched Oscar's ear, making him yelp in pain again. Honey, let go quickly. I was wrong. Woo, honey, I won't bully this kid anymore in the future. Ivan extra story. I am Ivan. Before the age of 5, I always thought I was the happiest child in the world. But on my 5th birthday, Mom had an accident. 7 days later, my grief-stricken dad followed Mom in death. From then on, I became an orphan with no parents. Uncle took me home, but I knew he wasn't a good man. I used to secretly hear him cursing Mom and Dad all the time, but I never expected that after Mom and Dad were gone, he would take all our family's property and make me a slave to Heidi. When I refused, they beat me, cursed at me, and even starved me. I finally learned to endure in silence. Later, I struggled to grow up. One day, by chance, I discovered that when my father took his own life out of love, he hadn't neglected my existence. He had entrusted me to his best friend, asking him to raise me. But his friend never came. He is not untrustworthy. He died on his way to pick me up. It was no accident. It was deliberate. Owen is the murderer. Mom's death was no accident either. Owen's wife is the murderer. One sudden day, my mind was flooded with many plot lines. It turns out I'm the villain of this world, and the malicious Heidi is the female lead. But I just won't let her have it easy. I started doing everything I could to oppose her, although Owen wouldn't let me go to school. Both my parents were intelligent people, and as their child, I'm no fool either. Since Heidi and Lewis couldn't handle me, that's why I became the ultimate antagonist who revolved my world around them. On my 18th birthday, in that hazy state between sleep and wakefulness, I felt a warm embrace. It felt like mother. I was somewhat shocked. Had Mom been by my side all along? But I had to carry out my plan. At sea, I deliberately let them scheme to push me into the water. Only if they thought I was dead could I act more freely. Later, I spent half a year gathering all the evidence. They all faced legal punishment. On the day of my revenge, I went to my parents' gravesite and leaned against their tombstone, drifting into a drowsy sleep. When I woke up again, I had returned to when I was 3 years old. Mom chases Dad to hit him, and though Dad is at a disadvantage, he dares to talk tough. This is my happiest home, with my beloved Mom and Dad who love me the most. This time, I will make sure Mom and Dad see the true colors of the Heidi family as soon as possible. Fiona side story. Ivan was reborn, and he thought he was hiding it well, but I'm his mother. How could a mother not notice the changes in her child? But since Ivan doesn't want us to know, I won't say anything. In this life, my Ivan will surely have a happy childhood and a forever blissful future. Heidi's side story. After being sent to prison and sentenced to death by Ivan, I was reborn. I was reborn too early. Fiona and Oscar were still alive. It's okay, I can figure something out with the reborn Lewis. But why is everything different from my previous life? When the car came crashing towards me, I thought, if there's a next life, let me be reborn again after both Oscar and Fiona have died. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.